Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Coram and Justin Nielsen here with a look at the action in today's session, where we saw a bit of a pause ahead of the Fed.
Yeah, not unexpected there. And, given last week's strength, I think we were probably due for a little bit of a break,
Mhm.
but hard to go too hard right ahead of the Fed. But we will look at some stocks to kind of get a sense of what's happening in the market, including on semiconductor, Weatherford, an oil stock, and then also um, what was the last one that I was doing?
Dynatrace
Dynatrace.
on
Thank you.
semi, on semi Weatherford and
Yes,
Dynatrace.
I was shifting my
Yeah, you're
decisions
like,
like at the last
what
minute.
are we look? What
Yeah.
are we gonna look at
I
today?
was looking at Broadcom. I was looking at ANET. So yeah,
So
Dynatrace is what I
some
settled on.
bonus one. Hey, maybe we should look at ANET, but because that's the other thing that we paused ahead of another big week of more earnings
Yes,
reports.
yes,
So
absolutely.
those will be coming in throughout the week, including after the close today. So
Mhm.
we'll get to those stocks, but first let's take a look at the major indexes. Down slightly across the board, the Dow and the Nasdaq down about 0.1%, and the S&P 500 down just fractionally, and the Russell 2000 finished the day with a fractional gain. So the definition of a pause here, just slight declines across the board. And for the NASDAQ here, we are hovering around some pretty key levels.
Yeah, that's a big thing. And again, I consider today like really basically flat. I mean, that's what we did pretty much the whole day. It was a lot of just staying within a pretty tight range. But yeah, you look at that NASDAQ chart, and what really sticks out is that we've got this level right about 12,270, a little bit, around there that we've hit it a number of times now, and each time we get turned away right around that area. Now the last time we got turned away, we got support down at our 50-day moving average line. So it was nice that some support came in. But for the most part, we really have been in this kind of trading range where we're not making too much progress to the upside, but we're not giving up that much either. There's
Yeah.
a little bit of resilience. So until we kind of get out of this trading range, I think you have to have some patience because it can be really sloppy and choppy. And what can end up happening, especially if you're buying on strength, every time you get to the strength level, you get denied, you get turned away, and we're going to show some examples of that happening today.
Yeah.
And then by the time you give up, that's where things turn around. So
Mhm.
it's usually a good idea to be very lightly invested, and this is where our early entries kind of come in and
Yeah.
help us as we're buying off of pullbacks and things like that. But the big thing is you can't get too aggressive in this type of market right now because it's just not rewarding aggressive behavior.
Right. And who knows, a breakout here for the NASDAQ could potentially pave the way uh, to 13,000. We don't
Mhm.
know. We'll have to see, but it actually is kind of ideal to see a pause here over the next couple of days, because if we saw that breakout right ahead of the Fed, ahead of Apple earnings, some of these other big reports that we're going to get, I mean, definitely would add to the trickiness of this market.
Yeah, and Allie, I gotta apologize. I feel like that's been my mantra for so long now. Where if
Yeah.
we could just get a pause right here,
Right.
and
Yeah.
we do, but we just
Oh,
never
wait, but these
do anything.
headlines and
Right?
yeah,
Exactly.
it's
So there
caught
there is
between
that.
that.
Yeah, that there is that other element of eventually you want that pause to lead to something. And
Mhm.
as strong as January was, we just can't seem to put too many months together of progress. And so that's the problem that we're running into. And look, we still have a breadth issue. If you look at
Mhm.
GMIAA or GMIAB, you can see that the advanced decline line is a little bit better on the NYSE, but not great on the Nasdaq. Last week, the fact that we saw RSP and QQEW, both of which are equal weighted versions of the indexes that we track the most, the Nasdaq
Mhm.
100 and which is the Qs, QQQ, and the S&P 500 SPY. The equal weighted are showing very different pictures. It was nice that they participated last week,
Mhm.
but again, they have to do more than just 1 or 2 days of
Right.
strength in order to really prove their mettle.
Exactly. So we're keeping an eye on that too, and we'll just quickly take a look at the S&P 500. Speaking of,
Hmm.
because we're seeing it pause right near highs as well. We can take a look at the Dow 2 here, reversing slightly lower on the day, but this 34,000 level that it's around, it's
Yeah.
been a key level all year. And then we can also take a look at IWM. It's been in a trading range for a couple of months here now and lagging. Let's also take a
Well,
look
and
at,
IWM,
yeah,
that has a
yeah, go
lot more
ahead.
work to do,
Oh, yeah.
because again, it got especially pummeled by the banking issues. There's a lot of regional banks in there, probably 200, over 200 regional banks in the Russell 2000. So you've got a good 10%, and when March hit and you started having those bank failures, the IWM was hit right there with it.
Yeah, the clear laggard here. And now let's take a look at some sector ETFs. Here's ITB. Justin, your thoughts on the home construction area of the market?
You know what, this is just one of the bright spots. For as much as it's kind of unbelievable, with rates getting as high as they did, that the construction, and home builders would be doing so well. The technical chart is showing you something very different than what you might have thought would have happened. And so I think it behooves you to really pay attention to charts and do a little bit of extra digging. This was hugging its 50-day moving average line and is now getting some separation above it, starting to trend above its 21-day moving average line as well. So if this can continue, even hold above these shorter term moving average lines, like right now it's holding above the 10-day line. I think that just bodes well for some of these stocks in that group that have been looking strong. Pulte Home is one that sticks out. It's definitely one of the
Mhm.
leaders there. Again, this is a breakout that's working, and that's just
Yeah,
not something you're seeing in a lot of places.
yeah, we will take it. Okay, XLV Healthcare, another area we've been watching, and it's put together a couple of gains here in a row now.
Yeah, it did come back down to the 200-day moving average line. And look, a lot of people look at healthcare as a little bit
Yeah.
defensive, but this has been cobbling up some gains, and you can see a pattern here with the overall sector spider ETF here on the healthcare sector. So I think this is still worth watching. And we went over this in IBD Live today. There's a lot of medical sector stocks that are looking interesting, a lot of sectors, or a lot of groups that are looking really strong. We had Ken Shreve on the podcast, Investing with IBD podcast last week. He was talking about investing in healthcare area, medical area, how you do it, and what areas are looking good right now. So definitely something that I think is worth watching right now.
Yes, check it out, investors.com/podcast if you missed it. And let's check back in on the chips. Here's SMH. It outperformed the broad market today. And NVIDIA, we're not spotlighting that stock in our usual three, but look at this stock. I mean,
Mm.
breaking out of a 4 weeks tight this week and didn't look back all day.
Yeah, clear leader here. You also saw some nice volume accompany the move today. So this was actually one of the stocks that I was covering on IBD Live today, and I
Hmm.
should disclose that I do have a position in this. But yeah, really like the action there. And for SMH, I like that it got back above its 50-day moving average line. We've been kind of talking about, look, we need to see some strength there. And the problem was that last week, and even the last couple weeks, we really saw a lot of these semiconductors really kind of taking it on the chin. Some really bad. I mean, Impinge.
Yeah.
It doesn't get much worse than that in terms of the look of a chart. Everything looked fine, and then they just pulled the rug out from under you. And again, this is one of the
Hmm.
problems that we have. We're still in earnings season. It's not over yet. We've got a busy week coming up here as well. So this is just one of those pitfalls you have to be aware of, that as good as a chart might look, I mean, this was holding the 10-week moving average line just fine. One bad
Yeah.
earnings report can change everything.
It really can. Okay, two more quick ETFs to take a look at. Here's XLP Consumer Staples. It's
I want to watch this just because if there's too much defensiveness out there, if people are running
yeah.
to buy their canned goods, that doesn't necessarily leave much room for growth. So
Mhm.
a lot of strength here lately, And to me, that's kind of a contrarian indicator that
Hmm.
growth is maybe going to struggle until this kind of settles down a little bit.
Right.
But there it is. It's right up at a level of potential resistance. So we'll see if that does in fact happen.
Yes. Yeah. And we were bonus ETF. We were also talking about sugar. It down today, but look at this move. If that's,
Yeah, and go to the
is that a,
weekly chart on this. I mean, it just really kind of highlights how strong this move has been. We were talking about some of the food, confectionery, the Oreo cookie maker, and stuff like that. It's
Mhm,
yeah, very very good point there, Ali. I mean, uh, this isn't exactly what you think of as growth.
mhm. And gold miners. Here's GDX here, down
You
3
know, I
weeks,
was
but is it a constructive or disappointing?
It was disappointing. I was looking at this at the open, and I thought it looked great. Again, the fact that these just really held a lot of these
Yeah.
stocks. I mean, you just can look at AGI, AU, FNV, WPM. The list goes on. But GDX, has the look too. Really holding nicely at that 21-day moving average line. You kind of like had this expectation, like, okay, it could break above this uptrend, this downtrend line,
Hmm.
and it did this morning, which looked great until it lasted for all of 5 minutes and started giving back those gains immediately. The ISM report came out, and it seemed like that kind of tackled things a little bit more. And SLV is right along there with it. I mean, SLV kind of shows a very similar situation there. Big reversal, downside reversal on SLV as well.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's take a look at chip stock on semiconductor. A strong move on its earnings report, up almost 9% by sessions close. When we were looking at this during IBD Live, it wasn't quite yet above its 50-day line, so it was able to power a bit higher as the session wore on. Some strong volume behind the move. The numbers weren't all too great. But looking ahead, it does look like we are going to see a return to growth next year. Your thoughts on the action here, Justin?
Well, and I think that's what a lot of folks are looking at for this earning season. It's not so much about the numbers right now, but what are those guidance numbers looking like? And that's where a lot of these stocks can be punished pretty hard based on what their guidance looks like. So the other thing is, and I'm glad you showed the weekly here, Ali, because so far what we're seeing with on semiconductor, and this is what we're seeing in a lot of stocks, this move move to high ground that just can't last. You get like a
Hmm.
couple weeks, and it's an overall uptrend, and it's looking decent, but you're just not getting the progress. You're not getting the move higher after you get into new high ground. And this is a problem that we're seeing with a lot of stocks. And I think this behavior has to change in order for us to really declare, yes, another bull market has started. I think right now we might be out of the worst of the bear.
Mm,
Maybe we've put in our lows in October, but it's really hard to get too excited because you just aren't seeing that much follow up in most of the stocks. Nvidia is definitely one of the exceptions there because of
yes.
how well it's been acting. But look, we're going to be hitting that 340 previous
Mm,
high, in pretty short order here. So
yeah, and right now it's got this it's right there. 289.46 closed today at 289.10. This high from early April of last year. So we'll have to see if it can get above that. And then yeah, 340. We
mhm.
will be watching. Okay, so that was a look at on semi. Now let's go to the oil patch. Here's WFRD. This is Weatherford. It tried to break out of a cup with handle and above a trend line today. It did kind of squat a little bit, I guess you could say, by the end of the day, Justin, closing flat.
Yeah, and actually, you know what? It actually kind of ended on a strong note. In fact, it kind of jumped at the jumped right at the close. So I mean, I'm showing a price that it hit at 66 at the close of the
Mm,
day. So
okay. So yeah,
it
a
it
little
it
bit
it,
of a
it did
pop
it
into
did
the
recover,
close.
but when I was writing this up, it didn't look nearly as good. It was actually down. And this is not alone. We're seeing a lot of these stocks get up to the resistance, and instead of breaking through, maybe it breaks through just for a minute and then comes right back down. Another one that you can put in is FIX, that had kind of a similar look where it hit this prior area of resistance and got turned away. And this is something that we're seeing over and over with a lot of these stocks. And so again, this is one of those things where I'd like to see this behavior change in the individual stocks, to kind of prove, hey, this is more participation. People are getting a little bit more comfortable with stocks going up again, and not feeling like, oh, the stock went up, I better take my profits while I have them, because I think that's part of the mindset right
Yeah.
now.
So true. Okay, and Dynatrace, ticker DT. We want to end it here. Pattern recognition isn't quite picking up a cup with handle, so the midpoint must be a little too low here in the base. Yeah, so the depth of the base 22%. We're 12% away from the pivot. So yeah, it just doesn't qualify quite as an official handle, but we like seeing pullbacks on the right side of a base, and we got a shakeout last week for this stock. So is that going to pave the way for a breakout?
Yeah, so that's the question. This is another area. The Computer Software Enterprise Group has been one of those areas where we were seeing some nice movement, some nice strength, some nice firming up. We were seeing this go from one of the worst groups. I mean, it was all the way down there. It might have been at 197 at one point, and now it's kind of working its way up into the middle area. But again, last week, a lot of these stocks did get hit hard, but I think Dynatrace recovered pretty well. The issue now is, can it just maintain this tightness that it's showing? Can it just maintain itself above its 50-day moving average line? And I think this is representative of what we're wanting to see in more and more stocks. Just being able to hold, kind of back to what I always say. If we could just pause here a little bit, right, and consolidate
Yeah, hey,
and
it's
tighten up.
that's what we want. That's
um,
the ideal scenario.
and again, we need to kind of see some of these setups. This to me looks like a good setup, but what we need to see is the movement higher and for it to continue higher. ANET, for instance, this was one you were talking about as a bonus stock.
Yeah.
This was kind of one of the ones I wanted to talk about because it had that nice bounce off of its 50-day moving average line. And we are again still in that earnings season. It had earnings after the close, and so far it's had a little bit of a downdraft. But we want to see what happens tomorrow. It's
Yeah.
recovering a little bit right now in the aftermarket, but let's see what happens with ANET tomorrow, because if this is able to kind of show a little bit more power, then this is kind of what we're gravitating towards, these bounces off of moving averages, off of support levels. This is what we want to see. Now you could get maybe a couple percent out of it, and then you take your profits and move on to the next one. Or eventually, if we can see some of these moves follow up, I think
Right.
that's going to be a little bit more powerful. But
Yeah,
don't anticipate it. You got to wait for it. Don't uh,
exactly.
don't think we're there yet.
Yeah, we'll have to see. And just because it's down a little after hours, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So the after hours action does not always translate to the following day. So we'll look at it with some fresh eyes in the morning on IBD Live, I'm sure.
Right, and they're about to have their conference call, so
That can
just
also
just that
change
by
things
itself can change a
directionally.
lot of things, right? So,
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, Justin. And thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Like I said, we'll be back with more tomorrow morning on IBD Live. And we hope you join us, investors.com/IBD Live, for all of those details. We'll see you there. And we'll also see you right back here tomorrow at the close.